Under the scorching sun of Kandahar, a cold email ended Staff Sergeant Nathan's 13-year marriage. A loyal soldier with the 82nd Airborne, he received news from the front lines that his wife had not only filed for divorce, but had moved her new boyfriend into their home, drained their joint accounts, and quietly planned to sell the house in his name. But Nathan didn't break. He didn't yell, didn't beg. He prepared. With quiet resolve, he began a counterattack. Not with weapons, but with truth, law, and strategy. What began as heartbreak would soon uncover something far more sinister. While on duty in a barren land filled with smoke and gunfire, Sergeant Nathan never expected the hardest hit would come from home. Not from an enemy with weapons, but from a 3-sentence email. Sent by Becky, his wife of 13 years, the subject line was chilling. Act like an adult. In that moment, the life he left behind crumbled. She had filed for divorce, moved her new boyfriend into the house Nathan had poured his sweat into building, and drained the joint account they had built together over the years. Nathan read the email twice. No tears, no screaming, just a hollow emptiness, like someone had snuffed out a fire inside him. He closed the laptop, stepped into the communal shower, letting the cold water wash everything away. When he returned to his bunk, he sent back one word: understood. No begging, no fighting, no hatred. That silence wasn't weakness, it was instinct. He was listening to something deeper, preparing for what Becky could never see coming. In the military, you learn how to stay calm in chaos, how to mask emotion behind a stoic face. Wilson, his bunkmate, asked a simple question. "You good?" Nathan replied, "Just home stuff." That was enough. In the military, words aren't needed, only knowing when to speak and when to act. The truth is, Nathan wasn't surprised. 6 months before deployment, he'd already felt something shift. Becky had changed. Coming home late, going to the gym but never breaking a sweat, buying new clothes, making new friends he'd never heard of. Her phone password changed. The daily check-ins faded. She grew distant like an actress tired of playing her role. But instead of blowing up or following her every move, Nathan quietly made his own, like a soldier planning a critical mission. He stored important documents in a unit in another city, opened a separate bank account, and secured irreplaceable family keepsakes. No one noticed. Not enough to raise suspicion, but just enough so that if it all came crashing down, he wouldn't be starting from zero. What he felt wasn't pain, it was intuition. And soldiers like Nathan, they learn to trust their gut. Becky thought she was the one holding the reins in this story. But what she didn't know was that Nathan had been ready for a long time. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I didn't call or send angry texts. I just replied with one word: understood. I'm not the kind of man who loses his temper. Pain, sure, but that pain quickly hardened into something else. Clarity, cold focus. I'm a soldier. I plan, I execute. I don't start fights, but I know how to finish them. Wilson didn't push. Guys like us know when silence means more than words. But I could feel his concern, quiet and steady. As for me, I went into mission mode. Emotions parked. It was time to act. First, I logged into our bank account, something Becky probably assumed I couldn't do from the desert. The money hadn't disappeared overnight. She'd been siphoning it off slowly, weeks before I deployed. Small transactions at first, then larger ones. 2 weeks after the divorce email, she drained almost everything. Over $88,000 gone. I couldn't call the police from Kandahar, but I could prepare. I took screenshots of every transaction, logged the dates, built a digital paper trail. Every document, every dollar became a bullet in a magazine I would eventually load. And then I remembered the cameras. Months before deployment, I'd installed a home security system. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep an eye on the property, not to spy on Becky. But now, it became my eyes. I logged in remotely. The footage felt like a punch to the gut. A man I'd never seen walking my dog, wearing my Seahawks hoodie, drinking from my coffee mug, in my house. Becky laughing beside him in the kitchen I renovated with my own hands. No rage, no heartbreak, just certainty. That night I began to plan. I called James, an old army buddy turned attorney, checked the fine print on my VA loan, reviewed the refinance documents Becky once casually mentioned, verified the security on my military pension. I wasn't a betrayed husband anymore. I was a trained strategist, and this was now a mission. Quiet, calculated, relentless. I couldn't stop Becky from ending our marriage, but I'd be damned if I let her walk away with everything I'd bled to build. 2 months later, I was back on American soil. No calls, no texts to Becky. I checked into a cheap motel in Spokane under an alias and met James at a diner just outside town. "You look like you just fell out of a chopper," James said, sliding into the booth. "Feels about right," I muttered, taking the folder he handed over. Inside was everything: VA loan documents, bank statements, and, most importantly, a refinance file. With my signature, almost, but not quite. The initial stroke was wrong. The middle initial off. "She forged it," I said flatly. James nodded. 3 months ago, she pulled out $330,000 using the equity, listed Jeremy as the co-applicant. It hit like a gut punch. She hadn't just cleaned out our accounts, she'd turned our home into a weapon. And Jeremy, turns out he wasn't just a dirtbag, he had priors. 2 DUIs and a fraud charge from 2019. Then came the name I didn't recognize, Daniel Spencer. Multiple transfers from the refinance account went to him. James ran a check. Spencer was a real estate agent, specialized in fast, cash-based deals. He'd worked with Jeremy before, 3 deals in the past 2 years, all with women going through divorce. All houses sold well below market. It was bigger than betrayal. Becky wasn't just walking out. She was, knowingly or not, part of a scam targeting military families. I sat in silence for a long time. What started as a cold divorce was unraveling into a federal-level fraud case. "What do we do next?" I asked. "We give it to the FBI," James said, "and hope she hasn't erased all the evidence." I no longer had doubts. This wasn't just a broken marriage. It was a coordinated scam. The next morning, I visited the bank that approved the refinance. I showed my military ID, driver's license, and authentic signature. The loan officer paled as he compared documents. "I'll have to report this immediately," he said. "I understand," I replied. "I've already filed a police report." That evening, Becky texted, "Who's been talking to the bank?" "Jeremy says someone's asking about the house." I didn't reply. The next day, I went to the county clerk's office and filed a fraud dispute on the refinance, registering a restriction that no ownership changes could occur without me present. 2 days later, Becky called. I let it go to voicemail. "Nathan, we need to talk. If this is about the divorce, we can handle it like adults." Same tone, same phrase, but adults don't forge signatures and sell houses behind backs. Later that day, James called. "Jeremy got pulled over driving your truck, license suspended, vehicle got impounded." "Good," I said. Better yet, he had dental prescription pads in the truck, filled out. Becky worked at a dental office. Was she stealing prescription slips? Next morning, I met Thompson, the bank's fraud investigator. He looked exhausted. "We froze the refinance funds," he said. But what? Half the money's already gone. Around $14,600. I demanded the transfer records. The recipient, Daniel Spencer. I called James. "She's prepping to sell the house," he confirmed. "Probably thought you'd stay quiet while deployed." I opened my home's remote security feed. There they were, Spencer and Jeremy in my living room, taking photos. List at 470, sell fast for 420. Everyone's happy, Spencer said. I forwarded the footage to the FBI with a single message: happening now. 30 minutes later, black SUVs pulled up. Spencer and Jeremy were led away in cuffs. Becky stood frozen on the lawn, watching her world collapse. The case moved faster than I expected. Once James and I handed everything to the FBI, they dove in. Turns out I wasn't their first victim, just the first one who pushed back hard enough to expose the whole network. Jeremy and Spencer took plea deals. They admitted to defrauding multiple military families across 3 states, using forged documents, underpriced house sales, and hush tactics. Becky claimed she didn't know, that Jeremy told her I was hiding money, planning to leave her with nothing, that the refinance scheme was his idea. Maybe it was true, maybe not. I chose not to press criminal charges. Instead, she signed a civil settlement, full restitution, forfeiture of any claim to the house or my pension, and a written confession admitting she forged my signature. 6 months after the email in Kandahar, the divorce was finalized. No court battles, no shouting, just done. I got the call from Agent Patel while sitting on my rental porch, beer in hand. Jeremy was sentenced, 8 years, she said. Spencer got 12. Good, I replied. You should also know, because of your case, 11 other military families may recover what they lost. You broke the pattern. I said nothing, but for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. A year later, I sold the house. Not for money, for freedom. The walls held too many lies. With the proceeds, I bought a small log cabin outside Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms, 10 acres, a creek out back. No neighbors, no noise. I retired early after 20 years in uniform. Got a German shepherd named Scout. Did carpentry for the locals, just enough to stay busy. One day, I received a handwritten letter from a Navy wife in Texas. You don't know me, she wrote, but you saved our home. Thank you for fighting when it would have been easier to walk away. I pinned the letter to my fridge. On quiet days when the memories get loud, I look at it, and I remember, sometimes justice doesn't come from rage. It comes from patience, from silence, and from someone who refuses to be broken.